Evidently, this is the Mitsubishi CT-29AC2S CRT television. This thing's from about 1997. I remember when Mitsubishi sold these televisions in Australia. Haven't seen much after that date from Mitsubishi, so I don't know how well they went. This one's not new in the box. In box, yes, but not brand new. It has been used to some degree. I'm hoping the manual's going to be in there, and even a brochure would be lovely to get as well, but that's legit Australian delivered Mitsubishi Electric Australia. And this was sold at Brash's, which was a department store back in the day here in Australia, in Moorabbin, Victoria, Melbourne, Australia. Made in Singapore. I'm surprised it's made in Singapore. I would have thought Japan, and 51.5 kilograms is fairly heavy. That will be due to the motorised stand that the television comes on. This is something that differentiated it from most other televisions at the time. Now, the ratchet straps are not original. I think the previous owner put them on there to give the box some integrity. So this is as far as I've gotten. Still got its wrap. Let's get it open and peer deeper. I see why the straps are on. It was to hold this box. It's a carton. It's not a traditional box in the sense. That's a lid, a big lid. There's the reveal. Let's see if I can get this cover off one-handed while I hold the camera. Maybe not. Hang on one moment. Oh yeah, here we go. Take it off. I want to tear this cover, but it's tight. Oh yeah. It's looking pretty clean. And I like the look down here of these manuals. What have we got here? Oh yes, the remote's there, thank God for that. Here's the manual. 28 system. 28 might refer to the American tube sizing 28 inch. Here in Australia we call it 29. This manual also covers the 33 inch, 32 inch I'd call it, but that's what it also covers. Dark tinted picture tube. This TV is equipped with a new dark tinted picture tube which provides better contrast and colour for more vivid like life images. That sounds good. Fairly big manual. All English. Here's the proper remote, Mitsubishi. The usual assortment, plus a slide down with VCR controls. If you go further, right to the bottom, there's the battery hatch, 2 AAAs. And this might be the model number, 290P0208. 6 followed by another line of text as well. Warranty card is also present. What's the warranty period? 12 month. No details entered from the owner. There's our offices for Mitsubishi Electric Australia in the various states and territories of Australia. Here's the receipt. Got to be careful because the previous owner's name and address is on this receipt. But I was right regarding the date of the television, 1997. 22nd of the 6th, 97 was its purchase date, and its price was 1,620 Australian dollars, which doesn't seem too bad because at that time $2,000 wasn't uncommon for a 68. Well, actually they did become cheaper in the mid-90s. Early 90s you'd be paying $2,000 for a 68, no worries. You can see the actual television is a bit misangled on its stand. That's its pivot point, that's its rotation point. The motorised stand operates there. It's a base plate and the TV rotates on top of it, going around the back. Actually, back to the side, a nice speaker grille. Our model number again. Is it made in Singapore? Oh yeah, made in Singapore. Power lead, even a warning thing on the lead. S-video in composite. It's also got an amplifier obviously built in so that speakers can be connected up, RF. No SCART, no component, nothing like that. Most unfortunate, most unfortunate. There's something that you don't see all the time. Access to the focus and screen pots on the flyback. You don't see that on televisions all the time. Now that it's out of its carton properly, we can have a further look at the outside and the stand in particular. So this is a motorised TV. It's on a stand. And it has, gee, I don't know how many degrees of rotation. Wouldn't be a heck of a lot. Certainly not 45 each way. Might be like 30 degrees or so, might be 60, 70. Diva, Mitsubishi Diva. It is the Diva. Power on off, master switch, power on off, volume up down, channel up down, TV, AV. Now does that, no, that doesn't pop out. Oh, another button. That might be, at a guess, neutral, I reckon. That's a button that you would push to rotate the stand itself, would be my guess. Stereo, teletext option. Oh yeah, we've got S-video, headphone jack, composite in on the front. This thing's got no carry handles too, which made it a bit harder to pick up. There's nowhere you can really put your hand in, only go under. Now you can see the stand a bit better. Here's the bottom of it. The back is off. There is a cable that I had to disconnect from the chassis to get the shell off completely, which goes to the subwoofer. Quite big too, and horizontally mounted. Sometimes they're vertically mounted as a big column, but this one's gone for a horizontal style. Going up to the television, some big enclosures on the speakers. This television has a fairly good sound system by the look of it. Actually, those terminals there are for surround speakers by the look of it. They're not being driven, not being used to drive main speakers. It would appear there for the surrounds. Fairly big chassis. I don't expect the chassis to be high tech. Like, I don't expect it to do any 100 Hertz processing, maybe some picture-in-picture, but nothing too flash for the time. Our tube sticker, Mitsubishi, well, it would appear to be a Mitsubishi tube, A68KYN690X. However, it is made in Korea, which would suggest to me it could be LG or Samsung. So not a Japanese tube, not assembled in Japan, not the premium Japan specimen perhaps. We've got some trimmers, standing trimmers, horizontal width, PCC amp, PCC phase, some sort of linearity, V bright, and that's about as far as it goes there. I can see another one phase. It might be off camera, but I'm just trying to poke my head in where I can to see what I can see. As for the motorised stand, well, that's tucked away quite well. It doesn't seem to intrude into the chassis at all. I won't go any further. It's quite dusty. Certainly not new by any stretch of the imagination, the television. Let's hope it's continuing to work. TV's obviously on with its blue background. Firstly, I'll show its rotation ability. The manual states it only rotates 15 degrees each way. There are two dedicated buttons on the remote, left and right. I'll go to the left first. That's all the way to the left. Can you hear the sound of the motor? It's going to the right. Not too noisy, but compared to, say, Bang & Olufsen's rotating options, they're pretty much completely silent. However, you pay the big money for that brand B&O. As far as the button in the center is concerned, that is on the stand. Remember earlier I showed that big square button. It doesn't center the TV. What it actually does is it disables the lock on the stand, the rotation, so the TV can freely rotate as much as you like. However, there is a bit of a catch. As soon as you exceed the 15 degrees normally permitted, TV turns off like such. Careful not to run my finger over, but you can go, I think, pretty much as far as you want. This is intended so you can do cable management. For some reason they've opted for it to turn off when you do this. Now, when it gets back to normal range of movement, it turns back on automatically. It's got a switch in there, obviously, on its track, on its pivot point to do that. I've had a little bit of a sneak preview of the menu system. There's some interesting things in there. Let's dig into it a bit. How do I enter that? Enter, picture. So look at that, you've got basic, advanced and distance. Enter, so that's what you expect. Just sort of standard adjustments. And then on advanced, some sort of noise reduction, velocity modulation, I'd say. Color tone. Now this one's an interesting one. Horizontal resolution. Auto, narrow, mid, and wide. I'm very curious to see what that does when the time comes. We'll have to experiment more with that one. Let's go to distance, whatever that means. Oh yeah, distance seems to have this idea that if you're 1 meter away from the television, that it'll best be suited at this setting, and if you're 4 meters away, it'll go to this. So it's brightening up, theory being the further you are away, the brighter the TV goes to, I suppose, compensate for the distance you're at. It seems like just a bit of a gimmick, to be quite frank. You'd still just tune it to whatever you think you like best. But anyway, something a little bit different. May as well enter here. Audio, woofer, max, previous. What about advanced for sound? This would be more so for your speakers, I guess, that you would plug into those speaker terminals on the back. Extra function, let's have a look at that. It's interesting, you can have a red, green or blue or yellow, cyan, magenta. Off makes things brighter. Let's just go to magenta. I don't even know what color that is. You must be able to change your composite output to AV3, whereas AV3 is probably an input, but you can also turn it into an output by the look of it. Nothing too remarkable there. I think that's pretty much it for menu settings, but that horizontal width setting is the one I'm most curious about. I'm surprised not to see any color system. Perhaps I've missed it. Color system as in PAL or NTSC auto. So I'm more curious to put on an NTSC console to see if it plays NTSC playback, which it should. I don't think it wouldn't, but we'll see. Also, if I exit this, we will now see the magenta screen that I set up before. Ta-da. Righto, I've got the Sega Saturn on NTSC system via S-Video. No problems playing back in color on the television as expected. Didn't have to change any option. Looks like it's totally, completely automatic. Games Fire Pro Wrestling S 6-man Scramble. An oldie but a goodie, multi-tap special, 6 players at once. Just got an exhibition match on at the moment. Dan the B7 fighting. If we go into the menu, you can see my settings in the picture are as follows. I backed the contrast off a bit, so it's at about 85% now. It was at maximum 100. Down the sharpness a bit, boosted the color up. I'm going to push the volume up and just see how loud we can go. So we're about 60% of the way. So it's maximum. Doesn't sound like it's distorting at all. I'm having trouble turning it down actually. And the button on the remote for the down volume's not working too well, so I'll do it by the television's button instead. Options to turn the bass up and push it more, but that's satisfactory. I want to see what this horizontal option does in the menu. So we're going to there. Just turn it down a little bit more so I can think about what I'm doing. So we go into picture, advanced, and horizontal resolution. This is going to be the big test. There doesn't seem to be really any change at all, not here in S-Video on AV3. Like I can see a tiny change, like a pixel width of difference, but I'm a bit disappointed. It doesn't really do anything. I have to read up the manual and see what it says. Same console, still different game, Salamander Deluxe Pack Plus. I wanted a game that's field of vision is narrow, horizontally, which this is, but there's still no difference in when you change it. It does alter the image. It looks a bit blurrier when it's put to narrow. and it progressively gets blurry. As it's wide, it's sharper, and then it gets a little bit blurrier and then a little bit blurrier, but it doesn't change the size horizontally. I've just quickly changed to composite video instead of S video. Obviously the screen or the image quality is going to be worse, a bit blurrier, but again, there's no real substantial difference between these modes, except in the sharpness, but no changing of the horizontal width overall. While we're at it, quick light gun test. I nearly didn't bother with it because I knew it would work. I knew there'd be no issues at all with the light gun on this Mitsubishi television. However, I feel a little incomplete, not at least verifying it while everything's set up for the purpose. So we can give that a tick. I'm going to move on to the pattern generator now, put a PAL signal in. Pattern generator is hooked up via Composite with the PAL signal being fed through. Just one last time in an attempt to see if that horizontal resolution actually changes the width of the picture, and it's still the same effect as we saw before, so that's really a no to that one. Fairly square grid, bit misconverged in the outer extremities. There's our colour bars. We can put it into NTSC, PAL 60, CCAM, a lot of dot crawl in the CCAM though. NTSC 4.43, NTSC-J, NTSC-M, so it's got all those basic signals covered. I remember a friend who had a friend back in the 90s that had the bigger version of this television. At the time it was well regarded, however no provision for RGB meant that it was no good for gaming purposes, strictly speaking. I mean, if you knew about RGB back in the day, you didn't want S-video or composite. That same rule probably applies more now, but back then you weren't willing to experiment in RGB mod, so that's really where this television is left. We need to get RGB out of it. I don't know if it can be done on this chassis or not. The tube may be suitable for arcade donor. The chassis might be modifiable for RGB. That would be the only real true way to see what the potential of this tube, this television can offer. With that, that's not for me to do, and someone else to try perhaps. I hope you've enjoyed the video and have had a look at the Mitsubishi Diva, the Mitsubishi 68cm with the motorised stand. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more.